This problem comes from your book, page 678, number 22. We did something like this in class where they didn't give us the picture. They told us that we have h is equal to 18, so that's a side. We have j is equal to 10, that's a lowercase j, by the way. And we have k is equal to 23. So notice the three letters that we're going to use are going to be H, J, and K, and they're going to have a matching capital H, capital J, capital K. So these are going to be the ones at the corners because these are for the angles. So let's draw that out. Okay. H, J, K. So K has to be across from little k. J has little j on the other side. Put the little dot on top so you can tell the difference between them, and little h goes on the bottom. Okay. Now let's plug in any numbers that we know. Well, we happen to know all three sides, right? It says h is 18, j is 10, and k is 23. Again, what we want to do on these types of problems, we want to solve the triangle, meaning that I want to know all three sides, excuse that scribble, and all three angles. Well, I'm halfway done already. I have all three sides, so check. Now let me get some angles. In class, one of you picked H. I think it was Nephthalin. So let's go with H again. So little h has to be all the way on the left side, so that means that I'm going to do 18 squared all the way to the right side. We're going to put capital H, cosine capital H, because I want to know how many degrees that angle is. So I use the 18. That means I'm going to use the other numbers, the 23 and the 10, in any order you want. 10 squared plus 23 squared. What I always put next is minus 2, because there's two things right here that are going to be balanced out. I need to multiply them. Okay, so that's my setup. And then I go to the trusty calculator. Any calculator with a cosine and the squared button will do. 18 squared is 324. 324. And again, to remind you about how I will be chunking this, do these two together, or it has a smiley face on it. So you're going to go and you're going to go 10 squared plus 23 squared is 629. Now for the numbers that are before cosine h inside the parallelogram, all this stuff, it's going to be -2. Notice I pressed this one because that's at the beginning. You press over here on this minus, you're going to get an error, so don't do that. -2 times 10 times 23, negative, what is it, 460, cosine h. Okay. Again, we talked about social distancing. He's way in another building from the h. Cosine's right next to him. He's right next to that guy. This one is different. Even a different color, the way I'm color coding it. Let's get rid of the 629. We're going to spend our 629. Spend the 629. Gets rid of that. And then I go 324 minus 629. Negative 305 equals negative 460. Cosine h. These are multiplied, so I can divide to get rid of negative 460. Get rid of negative 460. Our negatives, just like on the other video, and most of the problems you're going to do of this type, they usually cancel. Sometimes they won't, but that's okay. Just keep track of them, put them in the calculator, 66 cents and a little bit more. Leave my little gap. Hopefully you know why there's a little gap here, because we want just h. We have cosine h. If we look over here at our trusty calculator on this version, the one that Zari likes with the yellow button, the blue one works weird at times. Still work for this situation. Notice cosine, there's something above it, right? That cosine -1, which the way we say it is inverse cosine. Or also, if you're watching other YouTube videos, or at some point you're going to come across a teacher that's going to say the arc cosine. It's the inverse, same thing. Cosine -1. This cancels out that cosine. I like that my parakeet's you can't even hear him. You may have just heard a chirp. He's being shy because he knows something weird is going on. It's like, why is he talking to himself more than usual? Negative cosine to cosine inverse 0.6630. So I get that h is equal to 48 degrees, 0.47. So I'm going to look for h. I'm going to go 48, 47. I have two more angles to go. I'm going to go to k. For no apparent reason, I could have gone to j. And I could even change it up and use the law of sines, but I'm not going to confuse you about that. Let's just stick with law of cosines to practice it. K says, you can notice, little k across from big K. Little k, I actually know it's 23, and I'm going to put my squared, because it's like an a squared plus b squared equals c squared thing. And way over here, away from the value of little k, I'm going to put capital K with the cosine. Cosine, big K, looking at his kid way over on the other side. So now we're going to go and use the other two values, which were 18 and 10, just to show you that there's not a specific order. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. But this isn't a right triangle, so you need that -2 to balance things out. Put your little smiley face to remind you these two need to be multiplied. Over here, right? Okay, let's chunk things. Again, I like doing these guys in the smiley face first. So I'm going to go and do 18 to the second power times 10 squared. That's 424. I don't know what 23 squared is, so calculator time. That's 529. And then we need to put this part into the calculator. We need -2 times 18 times 10. That's -360 cosine K. Okay, don't be fooled and think that, oh, I can do 424 minus 360. None of you did it in class. Maybe because you were very specifically trying to hear the robotic audio that I had earlier, or struggling with the glare. This is separate from this one. I need to spend this 424. It's far away. It's leaving the public area. It doesn't want to get any viruses or anything. So 529 minus 424, that's 105 left over, equals -360. And we're going to see a case that is not what usually happens, but it's correct. We divide by -360. You should be able to spot, Math 3 people, that you're going to get some kind of negative answer here, which usually doesn't happen. But when it does, it doesn't mean it's wrong. It is correct that we have -29 cents, and with a little bit more with the 17. Leave a little gap to show correct work. Or if you forget, then you're going to have to cram in the inverse cosine, because I know inverse cosine, that's what's going to unscramble this. Because you're going to ask your calculator, if I get this as an answer for a certain amount of degrees and I'm doing cosine, which is adjacent over hypotenuse, right? What angle would it be? So inverse cosine. This cancels with this. And then I go back to the calculator. I press my second button. And then I go cosine -0.2917. And that gave me that K is equal to 106.96. 106.96. That's K. Okay, K is up here, 106.96. Just like what some of you are going to be doing, those going to the medical profession need to read those charts. Make sure you're going to treat the patient well. Those designing stuff, my engineers, architects, same thing. Whatever you may want to do, you need to read the plans out at some point. So notice I have 3 angles. I'm missing this one. I know all 3 add up to 180. So I'm going to go 180. I just spent 106.96, almost all of it. And previously I spent 48.47 I put that into the calculator. You could have added the 106 and the 48 first. That's up to you. Just your style, the way you like doing it. I usually just subtract everything. And I get 2457. That's what's left over. 2457. So notice, now I have all three angles. You can go to my little checkbox. I have all three angles. I also have all three sides. So I've solved the triangle by using the 180 thing. And remember that what we were doing is called the law of cosines. Why? Because you see cosine here on the edge. You see all these cosines all the way to the right side. So law of cosines. See you tomorrow in class.